Hi there, how are you? So in this video, I want to talk about how capitalism should work, why I think it's the most amazing economic system, but how it actually does work in today's modern banking society. Now, anybody that's been following what I do on my podcast or is going through these videos will understand that I am a great fan of capitalism. Why? It's the only economic system that allows money to be printed for free and injected into the system without causing any inherent instability in the system, provided it's printed according to one very simple rule, that money is only printed if the value of the economic system goes up. Okay, now let's have a look what I mean by that. Okay, and I've used the example before that if we've got 1,000 people in the world and we've got £1,000, that means that for every person there is £1. Okay, so we can measure the value of our economic system against whatever we like. We just have to agree what the value of that system is. So our system can be considered valuable because of the human life that's in the system. Okay, so for more humans that there are on the planet, we can increase the amount of money that's available on the planet quite easily without decreasing the value of the money that's in circulation, or to give it its technical term, inflation. Okay, but what else can we consider value in the system? Okay, we can consider goods. Yeah, things like your iPhone, your television, all those kinds of things. You know, the more stuff there is in circulation that can be bought, we can increase the amount of money that's in circulation because it's being backed up by goods. We can also have services, information, you know, all these kinds of things, they all add to the value of the system. And the more value that there is in the system through human life and goods, services and information, the more money we can print. Now, I'm going to show you an example of this, okay? And this is how capitalism should work and could work, okay? And I hope it's not going to. I hope I'm going to explain it as best as I can, and it might seem a little alien to you because we're not used to being told these things, okay? Somebody's in charge of printing the money. At the minute, it's the central banks. It used to be the government run by the people. It used to be in the hands of the people. It's now in the hands of private bankers, okay? And that's what's causing our economic system to die, basically, because private bankers are running the show. But let's say, for example, that the printing of money is back in public hands, okay? So there's no interest charged on the money printed, okay? So here we have the bank. Okay, there we go. This is the bank. It's the bank, and here you are. Okay, now here's Steve Jobs with his iPhone. Okay, that's an iPhone. Okay, just think of an iPhone. I'll write it in there because it doesn't look like an iPhone, does it? There's the iPhone, okay? And this costs, let's say, this costs £1,000. Now, what tends to happen is you go to the bank, you ask for £1,000 so that you can take that £1,000, give it to Steve Jobs and buy your iPhone. Now, the system that we work in at the minute, you would have to pay interest on that to give it back. But of course, we're talking about public money now, so it can be printed for free. So you ask the bank to give you £1,000 because you want to change it for a good or service that is in the economic system, okay, to keep the economic system moving. Now, in an ideal situation, what happens is that £1,000, Steve Jobs goes and puts it back in the bank. Right? So you've asked for £1,000, you've given it to Steve Jobs, Steve Jobs is going to put it back in the bank. The bank hasn't lost any money. They haven't made any money. You haven't lost any money. Steve Jobs hasn't lost any money. And that's how capitalism should work, provided that the money is being exchanged for some good or service that is increasing the value of the system. There is no need to charge interest because the money just circulates around the system. And the more value, the more goods, products and services that there are in the system, the more money we can print and the more money we can spend. Now, you're going to look at this and you're going to say, well, Steve Jobs isn't going to put £1,000 in the bank. No, he's not. All right, he's going to keep some for himself. Yeah? He's going to keep a small percentage for himself, for him to live on. He's going to pay, 40% to his workers. He's going to pay, 20% for materials. And what's that, 62%? And then let's say 38%. I don't know where it'll go, but it'll go somewhere. Okay. So yeah, he doesn't put it straight in, but he keeps some for himself, which he ends up spending. Yeah, he ends up spending on other goods and services or food or what. And where does that end up? Back in the bank. He gives 40% to his workers. So yeah, they take some they pay for their food, they pay for their rent, that money that they get for having worked for Steve Jobs ends up getting paid into the hands of the homeowner, or if they've got a mortgage, back into the bank. But essentially, it has to be spent. Provided it's spent and used, it ends up where? Back in the bank. The materials that he bought, where does that end up? Back in the bank. Because the person he bought from the materials from will end up putting the money back in the bank. And the miscellaneous stuff, well, it'll end up back in the bank. You see, this is how capitalism should work and why it's an amazing system, because provided things are being produced, the money just goes round in a circle. Money is printed for free in capitalism. It's printed for free in capitalism, or at least it should be printed for free. And provided the money is being exchanged for a good or a service, which then gets distributed back into the bank, there's no need to charge money, interest on the money that's lent. Okay? That's how capitalism should work. Money should be printed for free. And it should just circulate around and around and around in the system. And the more goods and services there are to buy, the more money is available for you to ask for free from the bank. Okay? Now, unfortunately, that's not how our monetary system works, is it? We have hijacked capitalism. Our capitalism has been hijacked. Okay? So here we are at the bank again. And you'll notice this bank is better because it's privately owned. Okay? So here we have the bank. Now what happens here? You are. Yeah? And you ask for your £1,000 from the bank to go and buy your iPhone, which costs £1,000. The system we live in now, the bank says, yeah, okay, I'll give you the £1,000, but you've got to give me back £1,100 because you're being charged 10% interest. They're charging you 10% of the price of the money that they've printed that hasn't cost them anything to print. Nothing. Because let's face it, if you ask for a £1,000 loan, what happens? You just get £1,000 typed into your bank account. It's just 1000. That's all they do. Type numbers into your bank account, which you then pay with a plastic card here. Right, so that's it. So now, straight off, you go pay this, but you have a debt over your head. This is now debt that you have to the bank of £1,100. So what do? You go out to work, yeah, to earn the money to pay back to the bank, to pay the debt back. Okay? Steve Jobs, obviously, what happens now in the other system, provided he paid his workers a decent wage and bought his stuff and only kept enough money that he needed to live on, or live the life that he wishes to lead, the money ends up filtering back into the bank. What actually happens is, of this money, Steve Jobs takes 50% and he stores it away. He saves it. And he grows himself a bank account that looks like that. So all this money, he takes as much of it out of circulation. This is evil. Once money gets taken out of circulation, it's evil. Very evil. And I'll show you why in a minute. So, some of this will obviously go to his workers. Yeah, some of it will go to the materials. And some of it will be miscellaneous. But obviously this is a much smaller percentage now. Because he outsources the work to China, which is cheaper. He brings the materials from China, which is cheaper, and any miscellaneous expense that he has will come from somewhere cheap. All right? So instead of that £1,000 making it back into the bank, maybe only £100 makes it back into the bank. Because Steve Jobs is hoarding it, and he's paying crap wages to his workers. So you see here, you asked for the £1,000, only £100 has made it back into the bank because it's being hoarded here by Steve Jobs. Because he just wants a big bank account. So the bank sees itself as missing money. The bank now sees itself as missing £1,000. The bank is missing £1,000 now. It's given out £1,000 and it's not got them back. You see? Which is why you get stressed out, because the bank is saying, you owe me £1,000, you owe me £1,000, you owe me 1,100, you owe me 1,100. But of course, you know, you're constantly in debt that way. If interest is charged on money lent and people take money out of the system and store it like squirrels store nuts, it inherently makes the system poorer. So the banks charge us more money. Now, because the bank then says, well, I've not got enough money. So the next time you ask for a loan, it's 15%. So instead of owing them 1,100, you owe them 1,150. You see? But then, of course, you get to the point where you can't work enough. You can't physically work enough to pay back the debt to the bank. So what do the bank do? They take your iPhone off you. They take your house off you. They take your car off you. So you see how charging interest by the bank on money lent out that they don't have to pay for to print, because they don't print it. They are slowly but surely taking over every single commodity in the world. They are taking over the capitalist system. They have hijacked the capitalist system. Why? Because the printing of money is in private hands. Do you see? Do you see where that's going now? Do you see why the charging of interest on money lent, usury, is disgusting? It's disgusting. It's hijacking the capitalist system. Now, let's look at it another way, okay? Let's look at it another way. And this is the way that we, as a species, can overcome the banking system. Okay? This is the way we overcome the banking system. Here we have the bank. It could be private or public, don't particularly care. Here's you. Here's the iPhone. Costs £1,000. Now you need £1,000 to buy your iPhone. Where are you going to get your £1,000 from? Don't want to go to the bank. This is a private bank. They're going to charge you interest on money. You're going to be enslaved to them for the rest of your life if you ask them for money. As soon as you ask them for money, you're enslaved to them for the rest of their life. So where are you going to get the £1,000 from? How about another human being? How about another human being that's got £1,000? You make something. You make something. And you sell it for £1,000 to that person. So that person gives you £1,000 in exchange for this thing that you've made. You give the £1,000 to Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is a decent human being. You only buy from Steve Jobs. Why? Because you know that Steve Jobs pays a decent wage to his workers. You know that he's not just growing a massive bank account. He's only taking enough money to live on from that. And that the rest of it will probably get stored in the bank or can get recirculated through the human race. Okay? The bank, provided all they do is store money, it's great, it's a wonderful institution. You know, if it's only being used to store money and not to borrow money from, then it's a great institution. So this is what we're going to look into in level 2. Okay? The level 2 of this course, level 1 of this course is designed to get you angry with our monetary system. Okay? It's designed to give you a desire to beat the bank. Okay? Now in level 2, I'm going to show you how to do this, how to create stuff to sell, so that you don't have to go to the bank. Okay? The system before is a hijacked capitalist system based on consumerism. This is a capitalist system based on creationism, creating stuff. So if we as human beings create stuff to sell it to other human beings to get the money back, the money stays in circulation like a real capitalist system should, and only increases in value once we inject more goods and services into the system. So if everybody is creating new stuff, the value of our monetary system will go up, and the bank will have to print money in accordance with the value of the system. But we'll go into that later. Have a fantastic day, guys. Bye-bye.